Hi, and welcome back to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to you. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and we are bringing to you a whole bunch of new releases we're going to be diving into. So let's see who is going to be stacking up those to be read piles. So, Layla, you are up first.
Hi, I'm Layla Dorine. I write LGBTQ fiction and romance with rockers, shifters, bikers, daddies, littles, pets, and all points in between. And tonight I'll be talking to you about Prayers for the Prickly, which is my heat, prey, love, predator, prey, shifter romance. And it is a Wolverine shifter with a hedgehog shifter mate.
And Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Katherine Kitty Cat series. I also write under a variety of other pen names and in all of the genres. And tonight we're going to be talking about many things about the Alien series.
So, y'all have both done this. Y'all know what we're going to go do. So, I'm going to probably mix it up on you just because it's just a couple of us for my own amusement value. But we will start on the basics. So, let's kind of dive into and just start with that world building. What's the world we're stepping into on this? So, Jenny, I'm going to start with you on this just for humor to really mix stuff up.
No worries. The world we're stepping into is the world of Katherine Kitty Cat. She starts off in Touched by an Alien as a, marketing manager, happy-go-lucky girl just going through life. Super being forms in front of her, and she has to use that pen that's on the cover to take it down. And doing so gets her involved in a lot of intrigue and excitement because it turns out there are aliens on Earth, and as a side benefit to them being here to protect and serve, they're all gorgeous by human standard. So that's the world. It's set in a multiverse. So Kitty's universe is not quite our universe. It's close, but it's not quite. There are certain key things that should cue a reader in that it's a multiverse, but didn't until at least book 3. But that's it. So it's science fiction with a lot of action, romance, and humor set in present day.
Layla, what are you bringing into with? And I've been waiting to hear about this one. So go ahead.
Right.
Well, it is set in a fictional town that I designed. It's seaside Maine town. My Wolverine shifters from a very maritime family. Some of them have boats. They work on the docks. He actually owns a shop along the beach, and he creates sculpture out of driftwood. So he goes and he gathers the driftwood. And he creates all kinds of things out of it. He'll make lamps and images, and he'll cut them and he'll make ornaments. So like he's got a whole business along the beachfront and everything that can be reached by the boardwalk. And, he's kind of this like grumpy kind of recluse. He's a Wolverine shifter for crying out loud. He doesn't have the best attitude. And he's very happy to walk in the morning, gather his wood, go to his shop, do his thing. He's got his younger brother, who he pretty much describes as like the most cheerful Wolverine he knows, running the front of the house so he doesn't have to deal with the people, and he can be in the workshop all day. And then here comes bouncing through the door looking for these humpback whale sculptures that he's hoping to find for his sister's birthday, this brightly adorned hedgehog who is a candy maker, and he smells like candy, and he's just like the Wolverine, just kind of, at one point he has to choke down a growl because of a comment his brother makes, and he accidentally scares the hedgehog a little, so he covers it up by coughing, but then he inhales wood dust, so now he's really coughing, and his brother's making a joke like, yeah, he forgets his name, but don't worry, he never forgets what to do with his hands. So now they're all laughing and everything, and it's just kind of a little meet cute where August goes into the shop, and you know the humpbacks haven't even been put out on the floor yet. He'd come looking for, there were whales out front, but he wanted those specifically, and so there were two of them, and he gets them, and that's their kind of first meeting. And as he's driving away, my Wolverine, who never wants to leave his shop, actually carries the boxes out to the car and loads them in for for his little hedgehog. And as they're the music in the background when the scene opens is old school alternative and grunge. So as August is driving away with the windows down and the packages in the back, he's blasting Even Flow out of the car, and you know Mr. Wolverine is just like, yeah, I'm gonna have to find out more about this one. And that's like how it kicks off. And it's a fated mate story. So it's kind of fun because, they're not, Gregor, who's the Wolverine, isn't quite sure how his family's going to take him having a prey animal for a mate. And of course, it is Alpha Omega and it is impreg. So there is all the fun of when they get to nesting and then when they get to really, laughing about how he's such a round hedgehog by the time he's like pregnant and he's in shifted form and you just have the hedgehog legs in the air and the big round belly. And, the Wolverine's kind of like nudging a little bit and just kind of like nuzzled up beside him. And there's a lot of cute shifted moments that I got to write in this one that I don't get to play with enough with my wolves because there's been so much with the wolf series that is just going, and mystery solving and different things. So with this one, I got to be very family oriented and just cute and have fun with it.
So just to kind of shift it up a little bit, because I mean, kind of already dove a little bit into who's there, but yeah, who and what kind of inspired that particular relationship?
Oh, it's funny. That was one that when the opportunity came to do the series, I had just gotten back from Arizona. So I was riding this cloud of like creative energy. And I saw somebody post that like they needed another person because this is part of a shared world. So they needed another person for this shared world group. Somebody had dropped out. And I was like, the chance to write Predator Prey Shifters? Oh, I'm all over that. And I've always wanted to do like a hedgehog and a Wolverine of some sort. And I'm like, this would be the perfect place to kind of play with that. I had already had ideas and notebooks for each character. And then just kind of started thinking about the village. And as I built the village, their story, of the candy shop, which is attached to the bakery, and there's like a chocolatier on the other side. It's all August family that owns these three businesses, and they're a very close knit family. And then you have the Wolverines on the other side who are close, but they don't show it the same way. And so they kind of come off a little gruff. Like you've got a dad who's always telling everyone to stay the hell off his lawn and just, things like that. But then 2 seconds later, when the boys are throwing the football around, the dad will throw a spiral for him and not even care if they chase across the lawn to go get the spiral. So it's like, he's just being a grump to be a grump at some points, just it was fun getting into each of their families, meeting and creating their extended family members, creating a world for them there that now has 3 other books planned. Because of course we know there's no way in hell this was going to be one and done.
Yeah,
The
no,
book
it's serious.
itself,
Yeah.
You don't
it
have that ability, we know.
Yeah.
not only did I not have the ability, I didn't even have the ability to go short with this one. This one hit 93K, and I had to finally be like, the end. Not necessarily for good, but the end of this book.
So
So,
Jenny, you're
mhm.
re-releasing or you're having all of
um,
the Alien Kitty Cat series re-released, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
you got a little bit of a backlog coming.
We do. Daw Books made the decision that 16 books in, as we were ready to turn in book 17, that we are done, but that was fine. This has been the best, easiest, and fastest rights return I've ever heard in publishing. So that was really great. By the way, based on a character, for those that already know, or when you get to it, this is what I based Moose Moose on. So,
Oh.
yeah, yeah, and just as much fun. Stop ruining my clothes. So, um, We do. We have 16 books out. Touched by an Alien is now out in ebook, trade paperback, hardback, and trophy hardback. So you can get all of those. Same with Alien Tango. That's book 2. And the original covers, for anybody who saw them, were done by Dan Dos Santos for books 1 through 12. And then his apprentice, Lindsay Look, did 13 through 16. And these are re-releasing from Ginger Blue Publishing. And there was micropress. They can't afford to pay these artists for reuse rights, nor can they afford to wait for the artists to have time to do new covers, nor can they afford to pay the artist for the new cover. So their in-house art department's doing them. We decided to go with object covers, which I think is really cool. So, which is similar to, if everyone's seen the Twilight cover where there's somebody sitting there cut with cupped hands and an apple. And you have no idea what the heck that means, but it's engaging. And that's what they're going for with these. So, everything on the covers is related to something or many things that happen in the books. So it's exciting. They're releasing as they're ready. So I don't have a release date for the first 16. It's just as Ginger Blue can get them done, they're getting them done and throwing them up. So book 3 is probably coming out in the week that we're recording this. And then we have coming up this December is the release of, and this is the original release of the Alien Collection, which is my collection of short stories that are all set in the Alien universe that are not from Kitty's perspective, because the Alien series is first-person POV series. Then the book everyone's been waiting for, oh golly, so many years, Aliens Like Us, is a beast. I think it's adorable that you said long as 93,000. That's so cute. Hutch turned in at 110 and ended up at 120, 125 with edits. My longest to date was number 16, which was over 260,000 words when it turned in. So Aliens Like Us was no shorter. And but I knew it was going to be a problem because originally I thought it was going to a new editor at DAW. So I already knew there were going to be complaints. So I knew exactly where to cut the book in half. So ta-da! Aliens Like Us is coming out next April, and Aliens Like Them is coming out next December. And then I'll be back on what I would call the regularly planned schedule with some extras, because Ginger Blue's like, you write whatever you want, baby.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's exciting because I don't have the same level of contract negotiation with them that I did with DAWs. So they're much smaller, they're much more nimble, and so they can just say, yeah, okay, keep going, right? As long as people are buying them and you want to write it, keep going. So, which is nice. I need to try to be a little shorter. Don't know if that's gonna happen. My fans are now used to doorstops. And, there's lots going on, especially when you're talking about this series builds on itself. So you're following Kitty and the same set of people, and people add in. So I have by now over 500 named characters in the series. And you get a name if you have dialogue or interactions with any of the other characters that we see or we're told about. So that's a lot. And that makes it harder to do shorter books. I actually laughingly thought Aliens Like Us was going to be shorter than it turned in at. Yeah. So you're going,
you do have a project Bible for that with all the names in it, right?
I do. It's called an Excel spreadsheet. And but it works. And a lot of times getting names is hard. So anytime somebody's like, I offer this to anybody I like, is there someone you hate you'd really like to kill? Give me their name. I will kill them for you in my book because I need names. So, and it helps if you've done a friend of mine wrong, I'm happy to kill you. So there's all that. So it's exciting. It's also a little nerve wracking because, people on my Hook Me Up subscribers newsletter know what's going on if they read the newsletter. People who follow my blog know what's going on if they read the blog. People who follow me on Facebook and Blue Sky and X Twitter know what's going on. But my entire fan base does not know what's going on because they're not all following me, right? They're just looking for the next book. So, I'm getting this looks like the same book. Why does it have a new cover? It's like, well, gosh, if you read my blog, you'll know. But there's nothing I can do about that. So this happens all the time. And, and the publisher's like, we're doing what we can. But beyond that, it's just, if they buy it and it's, here you have the new cover. Yay! Right. So I am excited about hardback. I don't think that a million people are going to buy them, but I think it's really nice to have because the series has been going since 2010. And people have 16 books and they reread them and reread them and reread them. And in fact, when I was back home in Arizona a couple of weeks ago, one of my fans brought in several books to have them signed, and they are well read. And someone said, wow, those have seen some use. She's like, I reread this series regularly. I'm like, I love her. And someone said, you need one of the new copies. She's like, I do, actually.
So for anybody who's never read the series or doesn't know anything about it, who are they hanging out with in this universe?
Okay, you're hanging out with Katherine Kitty Cat, who is kind of an accidental badass. She doesn't know she's a badass. She doesn't know that her parents have basically trained her to be a badass. And she, like I said, she gets involved with the Alton Centurions. So there's Jeff Martini, very handsome. Christopher White, also very handsome. Christopher's dad, Richard, their cousin, Paul Gower, who is Black. And I want to point that out because there's a lot of representation in the series. It's not something that I went around, look, because there are people of all races everywhere. And so Kitty's going to run into those people, especially in the Southwest. So we have Hispanic characters, we have, LGBTQ, we've got everybody that's represented in that. And that's fine. For Kitty, people are people, regardless, that includes if you're a walking cat person or a talking dog person or a giant Cthulhu monster. As long as you're sentient and dealing with it, you're a person. And her attitude about that wins her a lot of friends. And that's really, really part of the point. Kitty has several superpowers that she doesn't even know she has, but one of them is indeed being able to flip enemies. Not all enemies, not all the time, but she can absolutely, because she sees everybody as essentially equal, she treats everybody equally. And people who aren't getting treated equally realize that. And the bad guys, she's willing to forgive you if you just stop being bad, right? So she definitely has that ability, which is one of the things that I really enjoy writing with her, writing her. And so we follow Kitty all the way through all the stages. In book one, it's Kitty's introduction, and she ends up having to save the day with her knowledge of pop culture, comics, hairspray, and rock and roll. Yes, she does. In book two, she's made a romantic commitment. They're not married. But now there's new threat. And one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure I never did Iron Man 2, which was basically, oh, look, remember there was a bigger, badder Iron Man? Now there are more bigger, badder Iron Men. I did not want to do that. It was boring. I mean, it was still good, but it wasn't great. Okay, so I do what I call internal threat books and external threat books. So in Touched by an Alien, they're dealing with in-control super beings, which are horrifying monsters that can destroy a lot. They're almost impossible to kill. Kitty figures that out. And part of how she does that, I got some like, oh, she's just so perfect. It's like, no, some of us have that skill. I personally have the skill is I go in and you describe what you're doing with your business, and I can walk in there and tell you what you're doing wrong really quickly. And I'm always right. Which sounds like totally, all me, but that's a skill. It isn't like, oh, I'm so great. That's a skill that I hone. Okay. So Kitty has that skill so that she's walking in to a situation where everybody really from the 1960s, they've said, oh, this is how things are. And she walks in and goes, but is it like that really? And because of that, she is able to see things that people that have been too close to it can't. But in book two, the threat is not really a monster. It's a monster of a person. The threats are personal, and it's politicians behaving very badly. So I like to do, you've got the human threat, which are always worse than the alien threats. And so the books go back and forth. Sometimes it's a person, a Earth threat, and sometimes it's like Aliens Abroad is absolutely an external threat because they are literally taking in a spaceship going around the galaxy. And Aliens Like Us, because of what happens, that's also external. But Alien Rescue is all very internal and very, very Earth focused. So it just goes like that. And then I also look at them as like book 11 is Alien Separation, and I consider that Kitty Carter of Mars. She's on the alien world and having to deal with it, right? Alien versus Alien is my version of War of the Worlds, and so on. So I have all these things that I kind of have a theme within each book. And everything has a mystery because I love mysteries. They're my first love in everything. And so everything has mysteries that Kitty has to solve. But it's not like she's an amateur sleuth. She has to solve this while, they're running through the desert or being chased in an airplane or whatever. It's not like, Holmes, what do you think? It's like, by the way, I think that's a bad guy, right? Holy crap, I figured out what they want to do. Run, right? So it's fun. I love this series. I love the characters. Kitty's a ton of fun to write. All the characters have their own, have their own particular bent, but I love all of them there except one who I would kill off tomorrow, but he's a fan favorite, so he gets to stay. So, and any fan who sees this knows exactly what I'm talking about because I have not been shy about this since book 4. So, yeah.
So I kind of want to hit on this idea because I always like talking about the research rabbit holes, the things we dive down, the things that we play with, the things that we do. I want to mix that up a little bit this time because well, A, y'all are used to hearing that from me, and B, we may as well have a little bit of fun for this one. So Layla, you've been cranking out a lot of stuff as of lately, a lot of stuff. We've seen the dragons. We talked a lot about the beginning of the dragon series. Now we're back to something nice and cozy and having fun with this. What, just kind of looking at maybe the last year of all the stuff you've been putting out, all the fun you've been having with this, because you've been definitely going up and down the roller coaster of who are we having fall in lust this week? What is, out of all of the stuff you've been doing, what have you kind of learned about yourself in that ride over the last 6 months as a writer?
Oh man, I think the biggest thing has just been that the system that I came up with years ago when I was first, creating, I'd get an idea and I'd throw it in a notebook, and sometimes it would sit in the notebook for a while. And something would pop into my head and, oh, it goes in this notebook. And so like a lot of the stories that have been able to come out so quickly in the last 2 years have done so because they've been like noted and like worked on, and I've been collecting underpants and ideas for the last several years. Like the idea, like I couldn't quite decide if I was going to do porcupine or hedgehog, but Prayers for the Prickly was given a title. That title actually came into being in 2021. So it's been sitting in notes. I've got little clips of paper for it. It was only in the writing of the story that the whole world clicked, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I've got this set up for the two characters' siblings are fated mates, but they're having an issue. And then today, as I'm writing notes, I'm like, holy crap, that book's going to be an MMM. Like, wait a minute, there's another mate. And I probably wrote notes on like 9 chapters today, just outline notes in a notebook, because everything today, from the years of like, okay, here's the town, and I want, Gregor goes out on the boat every now and again to still help with the fishing. And I'm from a fishing, town in Mass. So, drawing on those notes and memories. And as it all came together, I was like, well, these notes have been, and these characters and these plans have come together for quite a few years before there was a project that really allowed it to not only click, but become something more. So like right now, it is definitely the 3 books to follow are already set up in the first book. So it's definitely a 4-book series at this moment. I don't know if it'll go further, but every time I find, travel, like I was at a table one night at an event, and we were joking, and one of the guys was like, yeah, it was my neighbor sending me a video. Damn goats got into my yard, and da da da. And we had been talking about shifters, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, I've never done a goat shifter. I've written goats in the salvage yard, in the contemporary down in South Mississippi, because when I visited, there were sure as shit goats in the salvage yard keeping the grass low. And we're out there looking for a part for my friend's van, and I'm getting bought at because this goat's standing, 2 cars up, just looking down at me like, what are you doing in my scrapyard, human? And that immediately, like, I started writing that story as we were driving back. So when he's showing me these videos of his goats, I'm like, goat shifters, and we were already talking about a rhino rock band, and I'm like, all right, all of these things have to come together. So there is a notebook that's just like goats for roadies, goats for groupies, and a rhino rock band, and just this insanity coming from the conversation. So every time I have a conversation that will produce pages of notes in one sitting, it gets its own notebook. And then we just start collecting underpants, and we might collect underpants for like the next couple years. I took the Comet Lake series. I took the notebook for it to Deadwood with me on a motorcycle trip, and ended up, we're in the mountains, and I'd actually switched bikes, and I was riding with another friend of mine, and we're going up, and I'm like, finally, some things within it clicked, and I figured out what the arc that I wanted. So when I came home and started writing, I'd filled this notebook, and I'd been trying to piece those stories together for years, like probably 5 years. I'd started that green notebook just to try to get one book. And when I sat down to write it, I wrote the first book in 15 days, the second book in 3.5 weeks. And these were like 86K books. I had five of the 6 books written before I even gave it to the publisher. And I wrote them all in under 6 months because all of the material was just there. So by the time I start to actually sit at the computer with a book, I know the story. I know it backwards and forward. Very little is going to really surprise me when I'm writing it, even though they mess me up from time to time. They're like, ooh, here's an extra mate, or ooh, I'm sorry, we're accidentally going to like injure or murk this character. And I'm like, gee, thank you. That was not planned for, but okay. But I mean, we have the idea of what we want to do. Even when I work with my partners, like we'll have conversations. We won't have notes, but we'll have had a conversation just like we're sitting and chatting now. And we'll be like, yeah, we want to do this idea. Okay. All of our ideas are thrown out into the universe. Let's see what happens when we sit down at the computer. And then the ideas have had time to kind of take root and form images. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night and there'll be like a whole scene in my head. So lamp gets flicked on, dog gets annoyed. I'm scribbling for 2.5 hours in a notebook while the cat snores next to me. And that's how I create. So by the time that I'm ready to write the book, there's books that have been pushed back for years because the story hasn't clicked yet. And I will write it when it clicks, and I can't write it until the missing pieces and the experience. And I haven't traveled to the right place yet, or I haven't done the thing that's gonna inspire the story to just finish telling itself. Because once it does, and I have all the pieces, I am really good about just sitting down at the computer from first thing in the morning until I'm too tired and writing like 7 to 10,000 words a day and telling the story because it's already there. The whole thing is actualized.
Boy, are we opposite.
So, Jenny, what have you learned about yourself in the last?
I remain an extremely, extreme linear writer. I also have ADHD, which I have now weaponized officially. I hadn't realized it ever until a few years ago when all the memes were going around and I realized I had every single solitary symptom, so maybe I should look this up. I'm not medicated for it because I fear medication will take away my creativity. And now that I know what it is, it's not harming me. What I realized last year was that I had to body double. So that's being in the same room or on the phone with somebody else. You're not necessarily talking. JB Garner and I tend to body double a lot, and we can be on the phone in silent for like to the point where one of us goes, are we still on the call? Is the call still on? Yes. Yeah. Right. But I need that. I need somebody there. I have a whole network of people that I use for that. I also need to work on multiple projects at the same time. Anytime I don't, whatever I'm working on slogs. And this was just reconfirmed today. I don't have the right music playing. It's not going to work. It's going to be very slow and very strong. And, for Touched by an Alien, I wrote that in a month and I was listening to Smash Mouth, mostly their Get the Picture album. Alien Tango, I was also wrote in a month. I was also listening to Smash Mouth, but 69 Eyes got a really like a week long straight, just that song shut out to the point where my husband's like, I used to like that song and now I never want to hear it again. I did that on other books. My PA will tell you that he used to love Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake, and he doesn't like it anymore because he had to hear it all the way down to Tucson, all the way while we were at Tucson and all the way back to Phoenix. So music is really important. And I am late on a book for Ginger Blue, and I've been trying. I'm trying to find the right music and nothing's working. I had a playlist for this series and it's not working. Nothing's working. And I'm randomly scrolling today and I thought, how about Augustana? Let's see. Oh, thank you. Thank you for choosing them. So do you think I just been writing like crazy this afternoon and evening because I found the right music. I'm very musically driven. Everything in the Alien series has a soundtrack, literally. Kitty is always listening to music. And as the series goes on, you start realizing how important that is to her process. She is saving the day with rock and roll in a variety of ways. And for me, it has to have lyrics. If it doesn't have lyrics, it's useless to me. In fact, I was waiting. My critique partner is in Sweden. So there's plenty of times where I'm like lying there in my upstairs office, trying to stay awake, right? I'm just going to close my eyes for a moment. And I had the classic rock station on one night and I woke up. I'm like, why did I wake up? Oh, it's an instrumental. The no singing, the commercials didn't wake me up. The instrumental woke me up, which was perfect because she had just said, hey, are you there? And if it hadn't woke me up, she would have gone on thinking I wasn't around. So all of that is processy stuff. Deadlines have really started to stress me out, but as long as I can just write with the music, I'm fine. The challenge I have is that the mysteries that I'm co-writing with Phoebe Bayless, Phoebe is not a linear writer. Okay, so and she's the junior, I'm the senior, so that's okay. But junior doesn't learn anything or get to contribute if junior is like, I have no idea what's going on. So we actually kind of block out what's coming in various sets. So I think we've gotten everything I need to race through, and then she does the overlay to make sure I haven't screwed something up. And, oh, you said we were going to do this. I don't see it. Or I'll say, describe. I hate describing. I hate description. I don't care about it. So there's always places in anything I write with her was like, BB, describe this in one sentence, two sentences, a paragraph, two paragraphs. I want to limit her so she doesn't, because she loves description. So she will go on, boy, if you want to know about clothing, she can tell you, and she will do it with this long, it's like nobody cares, least of all your co-writer. But when I can tell her what to do, she does it perfectly, right? So it's great. We get this wonderful description that I would never in a million years have written. And it's just the right length. And, she's got all the right terms and everything else. So that's really nice, but she is not a linear writer. So having to do that is hard. Okay. It's really hard because as a linear, AKA a discovery writer, I already know how everything ends and everything that happens when I need to write the book. Contracts would be the biggest reason why I have to write the book. But it's also, we're leaving enough leeway for me to, it's like X happens, this thing. And then I get to do whatever I want in terms of how that's happening. And then, like I said, she goes through and is like, well, that sounds stupid. Or, well, you left this out, and without this, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're seeing, et cetera, et cetera. So, but really, if we boil it down to one thing and one thing only, music. If I don't have the right music, it goes really slow. With the right music, with the right band in the background, I am just racing, and it's never the same band, ever, right? It's not like I can say, oh, well, Fall Out Boy, you worked last time. Maybe they'll work this time, but maybe not. Panic at the Disco, you're my jam. Oh, but not for this book. So Aerosmith, I love you so much, but you are not helping, right? And it's never who anyone reading the book would think is the band. No one reading Deck the Falls will think that Augustana is the band that helped me finish this book. Okay, nobody is going to make that connection, except that I tell you who, right? So they'd have to see this and know, right? That's it. But yeah, so that's me. Music, vital. Without it, I'm not nearly as creative.
I've got to have that music too. Got to have mood, especially for the mood of the piece. Mm-hmm. Like I will deliberately match up my mood to what I need to create for a mood to help me get in the mood to, do it that way. But it seems like for the last probably 3 years, whenever I get stuck, mm-hmm. I will go back to like anything Zakk Wylde has done. I will pull up Book of Shadows. I will pull up Black Label Society. I'll pull up Ozzy. Anything he's involved in, I can listen to. And then I came across this, like he's like a bluesy, folksy rocker, John Moreland, several years ago, and fell in love with him. And I have everything he's done, physical copies and downloaded. And like, he'll be my go-to, and I'll just put stuff from him on repeat, and it'll just be John Moreland on repeat until I get the idea worked out and sorted. Cause I can't know everything that's going to happen in the book, but I have to know all the bouncy landing points so that I can like fill in the gaps. Like I have to know what my arcs and progressions are going to be so that I have something that will keep me on track. Otherwise, it'll be a Guitars and Cages situation where it had to be 2 books because
I used to be like that, but honestly, I just see it. Like when I'm writing, especially the Alien series, whatever book I'm writing, I see 2 to 3 books ahead, sometimes 4 books ahead, and I know what's supposed to happen. I don't know every intricate line. I know what the arc is and what the big set pieces are likely to be. I just know that. But like when I've reread stuff and gone, wow, what a great line. I wonder who wrote, oh, that's me. I wrote that. I don't remember most individual lines, right? You could quote most of the books at me. I'd be like, oh, who wrote that? Oh, me. Oh, well, great. Gosh, I guess that's why I have a career, right? But I don't remember them. I remember the overall arc. And I also tend to remember my first draft not my final draft, which is why I have to reread series over and over again when I'm writing them, because I don't remember. There are things that my editor had me add in books 1 through 16, and there are things that my editors now are going to have me write through the collection all the way through. I'm contracted to at least book 21. So I just don't remember them. It's like, oh, wow. Oh, I remember talking to my crit partner about this and I really struggled. Don't remember it. Okay. So there are whole scenes in the third book that I'm just like, how interesting, how well done this was. Don't remember doing it at all. It's a mystery to me how that showed up on the page, right? It's just gone. But my music does not necessarily, I'm not falling in the same thing. Like, I love Elton John and I love Billy Joel, and I cannot have either one of them playing in the background. Their songs are too, County Crows is the same thing. The songs are too descriptive. Each song is its own little story, and I listen to it too much versus like, and this is not a slag on Augustana, but I've heard all the music, but it flows into the back of my mind and it keeps me going. It keeps me writing. If it's the right thing in the back of my mind, then I'm just flying. So, and I say with great, great joy that today I discovered that Augustana is going to finish Deck the Falls.
Nice.
It's working. And, yeah, it's amazing, how much how stressful that is. So, but
I somehow got extremely lucky to only get the HD part of the ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have the attention, but I have the HD, which comes with the hyper focus. So once I'm sitting in the chair, like my co-writer will be getting up and moving around. And once I'm seated and the story is flowing, she'll be like, I don't understand. The sun has gone down. You're still sitting at the picnic table. You started there. I don't see how you could sit there all day and not even, get up except, to run to the bathroom and refill the water cup. And I'm like, because the characters are so loud, it's become a movie at this point. And I'm just recording the movie. Yeah. And I'm recording the movie as absolute fast as I can so they don't get too far ahead of me. And sometimes for me, the keyboard is not fast enough. And I will have to handwrite and then read it into the keyboard on a down day later because I'm filling the notebook and the story's flying. And
if I had a handwrite, I wouldn't be a writer. I tried. I need word processing in a keyboard, but I type 120 words a minute and 70 words a minute with no errors. So trust me, I'm usually typing with errors that I go back and fix. But yeah, Touched by an Alien, it was basically, I had a dream. I was going to write, it was a dark little noirish dream, and I was going to write a short, dark noirish horror story. And within the prologue and the first chapter, it completely changes, to the point that when Kitty shares what her actual name is, I turned away from the computer and went, Kitty Cat, seriously, Kitty Cat? And she went, yeah, my parents have a sense of humor, keep writing. And that was how that went. And I also will write, because I can fix anything in post. So that short story tried to insert itself a couple of times, one at the midpoint and one in the about 3/4 point. And I wrote it and said, that's great. Did you like the first half? Yeah, you're wrong. Screw you. Right. Cut it and rewrote. So I edit as I go. That's the other thing. And that will never change. I cannot get to the end. Even in a short story, there's a pause point where I'm like, I need to reread that now and fix it, because that's just how I write. And editing as I go is why I have very clean first drafts, because I've edited the first 3/4 are super edited, and the last part gets super edited too, because I only have to reread it, like 3 or 4 times. But yeah, so the ADHD has helped now that I know what it is, right? Once you can put, honestly, a lot of times once you can put a name to what it is, that's your challenge, you can turn it into your superpower. Now that I know what it is, it's easy. Like as I'm boinging around the house, I'll just say, "Oh, my ADHD is out of control," but I got a lot of things done.
Right.
So, yeah, including
I,
writing.
I think that was the biggest thing about Purse for the Prickly, because I'm like, okay, I have these parameters, because it's a shared world. So
Yeah.
I have my instructions, my marching orders, and I'm, you know, collecting my notes. And I'd collected these notes and I knew my characters, and I wrote the first chapter and started writing the second chapter, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have book two. I'm setting up book two already. I have the ideas there. I had to pause. I had to scribble more notes because immediately it was like the two brothers, when they met, I was like, okay, we have another fated mate story here. And just today, as I was actually writing notes on that follow-up book, I was like, oh my gosh, I never saw the third mate coming, but I was sprawled on the bed with the dog, and there's the third mate in my head, and I'm like, that is really cool. I'm going to have fun with it. It's not the only MMM that's going to be in it, because I've already set up two that are mates already, and one that's been like a kind of frenemy that is going to be a book that's got quite a bit of hockey in it too. And it sets up for an FF with two hockey coaches who have been coaching against each other, and they've just married, there's been a marriage that brought the two families together, so now there's going to be these events where they're going to be, spending time in a non-adversarial thing where they're just such hockey fans, and hockey is a big part of, the like Gregor plays, some of the other characters play. Uh, August gets to go like watch him play, and it's, of course, it's the coldest place and it's summer and he's pregnant, so he's thrilled to be sitting in the skating ring and forming friends with like one of the other mates, who's mate is a friend of Gregor's, and they're playing on the same team. So like all the little parts came together, and when their scene happened at the toy store, I was like, oh my gosh, this other hockey player is their missing mate. And I don't know what the issues in that story are yet, because that's going to be book three. But by the time I got to the end of Purse for the Prickly, the four books were already in my head going, you now have to write me. I don't care what else you're planning to do
Mhm.
next year, but this is next year's, project. And I love when they piggyback off each other that way. Like you were saying, we can see them so far ahead.
It's so great. It helps with writing so much. I ran into a lot of challenges writing Aliens Like Us, but a lot of those had nothing to do with the book and had everything to do with life stuff going on, of which we had a tremendous amount. But also getting my groove back in terms of I spent way too long trying to focus on one thing. And once I figured out, hey, that's not working, and clicked in right and say it with me, found the right music. I finished it up, and now the rest is history with a brand new publisher and brand new covers. So
Well, I think now that we've given everybody a good view of what it looks like in the writer's bar when we're sitting around having a couple of drinks.
well, there's just two of us tonight.
Right.
So, but I think it's fun to get that little bit of an insight as what do some of these conversations look like, and what is the real life of a writer, and are we really all just that? Never mind.
Yes, we are.
So,
Yes,
Yes,
we
we are.
are.
We really are. Yeah, we're that crazy. Yeah.
but before we get out of here, let's make sure that everybody knows where to find you, website, social media, and of course, remind them of the book that they got to go add to that to be read pile. So, Layla.
All right. Well, you can find me at Layla Dorine at Wix.com. You can find me at Rainbow Lyrics and Mellow Mushrooms, Facebook, Instagram. I'm trying to get better at TikTok. I've got to make a reel this week. Prayers for the Prickly just came out yesterday. It is part of the Heat, Pray, Love Shared World collection. You can find it on Amazon and NKU, and I'm already shopping it around looking for a narrator.
And Jenny.
GiniKoch.com. If you want to sign up for my free newsletter, hook me up. You can do that from the bottom of most of the pages of that website. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. And you want to go to the Ginger Blue website and get Touched by an Alien Tango. Because of the hardcover challenges that Barnes and Noble actually has, it's better for you to go to Ginger Blue's website, click on whatever book title you're interested in, and that's gingerbluepublishing.com. You can either go to coming soon for pre-orders or, releases for what's out now, which these two are, and choose your version from there, because these are re-releases, and Amazon and B&N, little confused. Happily, all my reviews for Touched by an Alien seem to have stuck. None of my reviews for Alien Tango stuck, so we don't know how it's going to work on both of the big guys. So if you read Kobo, go to the Ginger Blue website. If you want a specific version from one of the other, or Apple Books and Kobo are fairly easy. It's still going to be easiest to go to the Ginger Blue site. If, however, you want trade or paid hardback or the trophy hardback, it is really better to click through on Ginger Blue's stuff. Their links are going right where you need to go versus typing stuff in. It's an exciting adventure. And if you feel like an exciting adventure to try to find my books, great. But if you'd like to find them easily, the publisher's website is now currently the best place to go.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingprose.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And go stack up those to-be-read piles. We'll see you again soon.